Hi there, I'm Salim Ismail. I'm the founding executive director for Singularity University. And I'm part of this whole Reinventing the University series to think about the whole person approach. The one big question that comes up all the time is what does the individual need in this new future? And part of the key metrics that we think about around this are John Seeley Brown has said it the best. He said the half-life of a skill used to be about 30 years, and it's now about 5 years, right? And so you could learn to be a master welder, and that would last you most of your lifetime. But now you have to reinvent yourself almost on a real-time basis. We see that in the most extreme level in the web development world, where every year you have to update your skills to keep pace with that pace of change. We're seeing this very dramatically, and as a learner, you need to constantly be changing your skills. And the way we think that this will show up is rather than learning skills and then hoping to find a place for yourself, we think what will happen is you'll start going and attacking problem spaces and finding what skills will you need along the way to address those problem spaces. So we think each person will start taking on a personal passion or a purpose and driving towards that in the new future. And that's where it fits into the whole person approach. So let me address the whole person approach. As we move as society and technology give us more and more ability to bring in different aspects of skills, complement our own capabilities, it really becomes critical as an individual not to be one-dimensional. You have to have a whole set of skills. The most advanced set that we've seen around this is maybe 21st century thinking, where you're learning critical thinking, problem solving, coordination, collaboration, communication, things like creativity, when you need the ability to harness, and you need to learn how to learn. And it goes straight back to what an individual will need. In a very volatile world, you'll need to know how to constantly adapt yourself. So education becomes more about not really content, but more about a process. And how do you adapt that process? How do you integrate new information into yourself to meet whatever problem space you're going to have in the future? From the organizational perspective, we see a very fundamental change in how organizations are being created. And I'm actually writing a book on this right now, where we're seeing how our old way of building an organization was to kind of wrap an organizational boundary around an asset or a workforce. And we're tapping into what's going on around us. And each individual, I think Reid Hoffman put it the best. He wrote the book, The Startup of You, I think it was called, where each individual need to manage themselves like their own little startup. They'll need to manage their brand. They need to manage their skills, their marketing, their sales, et cetera, and we're doing that in kind of a mesh system, and that's where society will go overall as a whole. As for society itself, we are actually very nervous about how society is operating right now. We've noticed that every single mechanism that we use to run the world, every societal construct, our civics, our politics, our legal systems, healthcare, education, intellectual property, you name it, all built for a world a few hundred years ago, not for the world of today. And so we need to create a new set of leaders, and we need to educate the entire population in a sense to re-architect all of these social institutions to meet the challenges coming in, not even 20, 30 years out, but 5 to 10 years out. Our current systems can't cope with what's happening today. Right? We're turning the world into information, and the implications of that are quite profound. It stresses all of our old systems quite profoundly. At the very least, as a small example, the short time cycles between a new thing happening and how fast it gets integrated into the marketplace, none of our old structures are set up for that. From a university perspective, we're seeing very dramatic things happen. The model that we use for the current university is about 450 years old. Right? If you're using a 450-year-old iPhone, you would not be very happy about it. And we've not updated it for quite a long time. And we think there's badly in need of an upgrade. I'll give one example that I think brings it home for us in our world. We deal with accelerating technologies. Well, it turns out today that if you're teaching, so one of the attributes of our model is because we're dealing with such fast-moving technologies, we actually we convene our faculty several times a year, and we revisit every lecture. Every 2 months or so, we revisit our entire curriculum. Right? Because for, say, in biotech, we've had 4 major breakthroughs just in the last year. So we've had to develop almost a real-time curriculum development methodology to keep pace with the pace of change in these various subject areas. That stresses us compared to regulatory frameworks. We can't become an official accredited state-sanctioned university because to do that you have to fix your curriculum and not change it. Right? And the second part of how bad this gets is if you're doing today a master's degree in one of these areas that we're focusing on, advanced robotics or neuroscience or a biotech, by the time you finish your master's degree, you're out of date. And we've just never seen that before in the educational world, where so many subject areas are moving so fast. So we have to architect completely new mechanisms to deal with this. And our old model of the university will have to be kind of fairly re-architected, kind of from a ground up, to think of what you guys classify as the whole person approach, which I think is a great way of framing it. So join us for this kickoff series and this whole new effort to reinvent the university in the model of the whole person.